Thank you. Thanks, Yuli. Thanks, Rajesh. This is a wonderful turnout for the inaugural UCSF chapter or San Francisco chapter of SOAP, and excited and honored to be here. I'd like to give you a bit of a summary of what we're doing at HealthPals. We're a precision health AI company. And I think we all know there's a huge prevention opportunity with non-communicable diseases. If you think about coronary disease or diabetes, things that people are living with all over the world, we know from the CDC that 80% of all heart attacks and strokes are potentially preventable. And it's easier said than done. You need to identify at-risk individuals, and you need to institute screening and management of risk factors that actually are followed. And we don't do a very good job of this. The Rand Corporation has told us that we fail to follow guideline-driven therapy about 50% of the time. But the timing is now to actually address this problem. We have a huge need to do this with a skyrocketing incidence of chronic disease. There's an appetite for innovation, and we now have technology that can make patient data incredibly useful. So our mission at HealthPals is to predict and prevent chronic disease through data, evidence, and AI. Our vision is that care should be evidence-based and optimized for each individual. What we use as physicians from clinical trial data looks like it does on the left, where everyone is essentially the same. But what we actually see in the real world is a lot of individual variability, and the guidelines really don't necessarily apply to every patient the same way. So at HealthPals, we've developed a platform called CLINT, which is short for Clinical Intelligence. We're taking data, longitudinal patient data. We have encoded and codified the medical guidelines for not just prevention, but also medical management of chronic disease. And we've mapped these two together and used that longitudinal data to create machine learning algorithms that help us optimize that system. So here's an example of the fundamental unit of our CLINT platform, where we're taking individual patient data, mapping it into risk scores and guidelines, and you can show an individual patient what their risk is, but also what the contribution of each intervention would be to reducing that risk. Now imagine if you built this from the ground up for a doctor and an individual patient, but then added that to every single patient within your health system. This is about 6.5 million patients across the US right now, where each individual has that individual profile and has added into this population view. And you can model risk, the impact of management of that risk, and do geolocalization and understand where different cohorts of patients are concentrated and where the biggest impact can be made across a variety of disease states at the same time. We can do this for any disease, and we can do this for any drug. And we're building capabilities and guidelines and content across multiple disease states that are both within and adjacent to cardiometabolic disease right now. So if you think about other solutions, they may be very clinically actionable, or they may be excellent population insight type engines. But neither one is both, and we believe we have an engine that is both, clinically actionable at the population level. So why us? We believe that's three components: data, insights, and outreach that translate into impact. So we partnered with a company called Veradigm. Veradigm is the payer and life science facing arm of Allscripts, and we now have 170 million unique patient lives over the last 10 years. We also have 65 million linked EHR claims records from that same data set. We have our clinical intelligence engine with codified clinical guidelines, and we're partners with the American College of Cardiology, which is the global thought leader in cardiometabolic disease. This three-headed approach of data, insights, and outreach is where we think we can actually lower the clinical inertia to treat per the guidelines. Who are our customers? We're working with life science companies on a precision discovery AI type approach, where we're helping them accelerate the time to market with this novel engine and real-world evidence, both on the marketing and medical affairs side as a planning tool to show geographic care gaps, current provider adoption, and model even new markets for new drugs. And we're also helping them on the R&D side as a planning tool for new drugs, new indications, and randomized clinical trial design and optimization. For health systems, we help them in a precision prevention AI platform, where we're identifying and closing care gaps in preventive cardiology to begin, and then in other disease states to follow. We can identify all patients within their health system that need certain critical therapies or screenings. We can help them deliver the critical treatment to those patients by giving that information to providers at the point of care. And we can then also track those treatment outcomes and healthcare savings that they're realizing down the road.
5 minutes.
Thank you. So, machine learning plays a huge role, especially in medicine when you constrain it with guidelines. Without the constraint of guidelines, you may end up with insights that aren't actionable. But by optimizing within the guardrails of evidence, we can produce actionable, optimized treatments for every individual based off of this vast amount of longitudinal patient data. We're doing this not only in the US with health systems and life science companies, but also we're doing this internationally, working with government single-payer health systems in countries that you see here, some of which will be announced shortly and some of which will hopefully be announced in the next 18 months, where we're screening entire populations for various risk factors for chronic diseases and helping those health systems institute preventive therapies to prevent the incidence of diabetes, to prevent the incidence of new onset strokes, and even heart failure and coronary disease applications. So I'm really lucky to have an amazing team. I'm a cardiologist at Stanford. I run a prevention clinic for South Asians, incidentally, but I don't know how to code. My co-founder is Sushant Shankar. He's a Berkeley and Stanford trained computer scientist and data scientist who's helped us build this platform. Our senior advisor, Bob Harrington, is the current president of the AHA, and we are VC funded. We have an amazing international and national team, one of whom is Yuli Chattapalli here, who's been a tremendous mentor to us, and especially on the marketing and thought leadership side. That's all I have for you today. Happy to take any questions later. Thank you. Questions? Yeah, sure.
When did you say you're going to market with it?
We already have. So, sorry, the question was when are we going to market with it? So we already have. We're working actively right now with several large pharmaceutical companies at varying stages of those discussions and projects, actually. So,
do you have revenue?
We do. Not a lot, but we are starting to get revenue right now. So, yeah.
Question from business standpoint. So you showed us what you are going to do. What is hindsight? What is insight? What can be a foresight, or what can be a predictive, prescriptive, analytic, and AI model to give more insight or foresight into disease process? But how are you going to commercialize it? Say, what is your business model? How is your go-to-market strategy? Whether you're going to get partners to get into the healthcare systems, or whether you're going to go through analytics platform and sell to the insurance companies, because there are several companies here in US who have platform, or I would say vertical healthcare AI, which they are selling those data analytics to insurance companies, and some of them are going to become listed companies soon.
Yeah, so the question is, what's the go-to-market? How do you package this into a product that can be sold? And it's an excellent question. It was something we struggled with for a few years, in fact. As a small company trying to sell into health systems at scale is basically a death wish. You'll get stuck in the cycle of pilots and never really make it out. Integration with EMR systems is also a challenge and something you have to think carefully about. But what we've done, and what I kind of showed earlier, is with the partnerships that we have, we've found a key to health systems as well as life science companies, both here in the US and abroad, where we have the largest ambulatory outpatient data set in the world, including the largest linked claims and clinical data set in the world, that really stands out as far as our analytic capabilities on a unique data set. And with the thought leadership of the ACC, we can publish these results, which we are doing now, and we carry a lot of weight, but that took us a long time to build. There are companies that are doing vertical AI approaches within healthcare, and we don't anticipate that there will not be competition. There will be competition. So our goal is to distinguish ourselves with production and market. And so we're actively pursuing that and aggressively pursuing that now. So,
Thank you.
but